Great to be here and great to see so many people. Some of you I've met before in other sessions, but I see loads of new faces, so haven't seen you yet. My name is Joel. I'm one of the instructors at the International Academy of Consciousness. And the IIC, I'll give a bit of an intro about the IIC so you know who we are, but we've been training thousands of people, not only on out-of-body experience, but also energy and all sorts of psychic related fields of research and abilities. And today's topic is about the out-of-body experience specifically. So I can tell you a bit about how we do that and why it might be of interest. Personally, I've been doing or having out-of-body experiences initially involuntarily as a kid. So since I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, as far as I can remember. And for many years, I just didn't know how they happened. They just happened to me. It was quite normal. I thought everybody had them until maybe when I was 10 or 11, I realized most of my friends had no clue what I was talking about. And I thought, okay, this sounds a bit weird. Why am I having these sort of other dreams that are a little bit strange and real? They felt like real life. And it was only until maybe when I was 12 or 13 that I started reading about the topic. My grandfather was thankfully full of books in his library about out-of-body experiences and past lives and all of the weird topics that other people might have said that were weird. So I had lots of information to go through, but none of it really resonated exactly with my experience. It was always I'm always very much like square-minded in the way that I think, very scientific in how I see things and how things work and trying to find out. So I kept looking for various ways of learning how to have them at will more than just involuntarily, because I was not able to control it. I wasn't able to just leave my body at will or have these experiences at will. But more than that, what it all meant, for me was more than just flying around my city or flying around to the beach or somewhere else. Is what can I do with this? I just had no idea. And I've done many training courses in various schools of thoughts about OBEs, read books from, Swedenborg from a few hundred years ago to more recent authors. And I never found something that really resonated. And then about 10 years ago, I met the IIC at an event they held in London. And I thought, the way they explain this is quite down to earth. It's very straightforward. There's no mysticism involved. And they really take it down to the basics, how to have it, how to control it, and in a very open and transparent way as well. So there was no need to do any sort of rituals or put specific scents or candles or anything. It was more, how can I do this by myself? And it really worked out for me. I really enjoyed it. And since then, I've just been involved a lot more and more. And for the last 8 years, training people as well on how to do this. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. Also to dispel a bit of myths about the OBEs and any questions you may have about it. It's not a course on OBEs because we'll run out of time very quickly. But at least to explain the anatomy of it and the physiology of it, not from a medical perspective. I'm not a doctor, but rather how does it feel? What does it do? And how can you do it yourselves as well? And so that's what we're here for. So I'll start sharing some slides to talk a bit about the IAC first for about 5 minutes and then go into the topic. If you have any questions, the talk's not going to be more than 35, 40 minutes. So we'll have a lot of time for questions, even live. But if you have questions related to what I am talking about, feel free to either write them in the chat or I'll stop every 15, 20 minutes just to see if anybody has anything to comment on and we can take it as it comes. First of all, let me share here a bit about the IAC. So hopefully you can all see my screen now. And what we are, we're a research and education organization. We do two things. First, research on things that are a little bit out there in terms of topics from a very unbiased way, trying to see things from different perspectives, and also then translate that research into educational activities, either in-person events or online courses, short and long, to teach techniques to, for example, in this case, leave the body, but really start to get you to think about non-ordinary phenomena in a more natural way, because these are not supernatural things. These are natural things. So how can we understand them more? If you go back a few hundred years, nobody had ever seen an atom, whereas last century we did, but we already had a model for it. So that's how we're trying to do this. We can't yet prove a lot of this, but that is not our purpose. We're not here to prove anything to anyone. It's more, How can we teach you to have your own experience on that? We have many courses, 74, but I think that's now gone up to 77, or we just lost count now. But we do have a lot of students from really almost every country that you can think of. We've had events in 28 countries, but then people participating from many more countries. And we never sleep. You know, we have people from California all the way to not Australia yet. It would be great to have someone in Australia, but we do all of our events online. So it's quite easy for anybody to participate, depending on your time zone, of course. We hold events. So we've hosted a couple of scientific events more recently, one in Portugal, one in Miami. And it was really inviting other scientists from out there, medical doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, neuroscientists, people from outside the IAC, to really talk about their research. So, for example, you have a photo there of a cardiologist called Pim van Lommel, who was really looking into near-death experiences and how some of his patients had near-death experiences. So we really wanted to hear from more mainstream science what sort of research they were doing and what they thought about all these other things that we were talking about. So it was very interesting events. We have some books out there that you can find on our website in terms of out-of-body experiences or energy or past lives and a few others. And also a research campus. And this is open to you and anybody. If you're traveling to Europe and want to spend a few days in Portugal, this is in the really nice vineyard almost area of Portugal, just between Lisbon and Spain in Alentejo. So a very nice natural setting for you to go to and visit. You can see some videos on this in our YouTube channel. And we do use some technology to sometimes train you on how these things work out. So we have a table that helps with vibrations and energy, how should it feel, and train certain rhythms, but also using virtual reality to help anybody experience an out-of-body experience without having it yet. So we're trying to incorporate things that trick our bodies into feeling what these things feel like really, and then teaching you like training wheels. But that said, now what it is that we study is the study of the consciousness. We call ourselves consciousnesses. We are human beings because we're in this physical body, but actually the entity that is thinking is a conscious being. So we call it a consciousness. Astral projection, which is another way of saying out-of-body experiences, and other non-ordinary abilities really help us understand ourselves more as non-physical people or consciousnesses. So in this case, for example, you have an illustration of someone having an out-of-body experience in a very strange pose, not very comfortable, I would say, because it will make my arm fall asleep. But it's quite like that. And I'll talk a bit about what we see in this image later on. But that's what we study. And when you are out of the body, but also in the body, you can be either fully conscious, slightly conscious, or completely unconscious. And we like to think that when we are out of the body, we have this amazing awareness and we know everything. Actually, we can be completely unconscious out of the body, just like sometimes we are unconscious in our physical reality. So extra physical lucidity, that sort of awareness that we have, is what we want to get to a really conscious level. So all the techniques we teach and all the topics we teach is for us to feel more in control of those experiences, especially because we have them, all of us. We just don't remember them. So sometimes the training isn't about how to leave your body. It's more, how do you remember you left your body? How do you remember what you've done last night when you were out of your body? If you were conscious at all, how to become conscious. In terms of how the out-of-body experience happens, and sometimes you can experience it instantly without going through these phases in such a detailed way. But your physical body, which is on the mattress here, has your physical energy, but also an interface. You can call it thousands of chakras, not just the main 7 or 9 chakras we hear about, which are these nodules of energy that connect us to our non-physical body, which is of a slightly denser, a different density than our physical one. That's what happens when we go out of the body. We just simply experience reality from that other vehicle of manifestation, that other thing that we use, that other robot that we use to explore reality in different dimensions, in this case, including this physical one. So as we start to separate, we still have a lot of these energetic connections all over our non-physical and physical bodies, but eventually they kind of coalesce into what we drew here as a wispish, smokish connector. Some people call it the silver cord, but it's literally just like a tether that keeps our energetic connection with our physical body. And we are then out there in another body, which we call the non-physical body. And it's called a body not because it has physicality to it. It's, it doesn't have a weight. It can go through things. It's invisible to most people. It's a body because we use it as a vehicle to express ourselves as a consciousness. Right now I'm speaking, I am feeling, I am being aware of where I am in this physical body. I can do exactly the same things in this other one. And when we start to disconnect, in this case, it looks very kind of progressive. We start to slowly disconnect from the head. We kind of get up in bed and get out. Most of the time, it doesn't happen like this. It's just, this is the way that we illustrate it. And what you might see in certain movies when they have these experiences in the movie. But actually, you can just instantaneously leave your body without going through this sort of disconnection sometimes. So there's many ways in which you can end up feeling and experiencing reality from a different point of view. It's almost as if I'm right here, right now, but then suddenly I'm experiencing reality from across the room. It's still me, just using a different mode of acting. And of course, for us, it's very hard sometimes to understand this because we think in the way they've taught us in school that consciousness is a creation of various chemical reactions in the brain, and it's the result of loads of neurons talking to each other, and that creates reality. We've seen that that's not the case. When you experience reality from outside of your physical body and you can see your physical body there while you're out doing things, it's clear that your brain can't be just creating that. But how do you know? So we'll talk a bit about that afterwards. How do you know it's real and that it's not a dream? The way that you can form that silver cord, which is not something that everybody sees all the time, by the way. I've only seen that once in my life, mostly because I haven't been interested enough to look around and touch it. But if you look for it, you'll find it there. But it's just an energetic connection. Just like right now, I don't see the energy that I have around my body and inside of it. Sometimes you don't see that silver cord either, but that connection is there. Just like when you turn on the Wi-Fi, you don't see it, but it's there. Your computer is connected to a network through your router. It's exactly the same thing. It's just a different frequency of connection in this case. But when we are in the physical body, that energy interface, that physical body, and also the non-physical body, they're all aligned. Sometimes you see this and you think, oh, I can see your aura. You're seeing someone's energy. You're literally seeing the reflection of that energy, sometimes a lot wider, because here you just see the couple of inches, 4 centimeters, 5 centimeters of the energy body, but that reflects out even further, and that's your aura. But that's because our bodies are aligned right now. As we start to work with energy and to misalign our body slightly and eventually leave our physical body, you go back to this sort of scenario where that energy interface is very flexible and it allows you to take off, so to speak. It is made out of chakras. Here we have a few examples. I'm not going to be talking about each chakra in this lecture, but these are the ones that you will normally see when you look into books about chakras or you start to do meditations on chakras. Chakras are just energy nodules. There are some big ones, more important ones. The ones that you see here are the ones that are most commonly studied, but actually every little cell in your body almost could be a chakra because it is an energetic exchange between your physical and non-physical. That is this interface that is slightly around us, but also deeply inside of us that glues together the physical and non-physical body, and it connects them. It transfers information between them. So all of these chakras exchange energy and they exchange information. The reason I'm talking about chakras and energy when I'm going to be talking about OBEs is because it is an intrinsic part of having an out-of-body experience. And out of the body, you can even see the chakras and see the energy a lot better than you can with your physical eyes. although it is possible. You can get some sort of third eye view, let's say psychic vision of your energy and your chakras. But when you're outside of the body, it's a lot easier. So you can go and explore that. And if you see then that sort of reflection and the energy field that is around you, let's say 30 centimeters, although it can fluctuate massively, that's what people see when they see your aura. When they say, I've seen your aura, they're just seeing your energy. More than see it, it's easier to feel it. For example, I'm not very visual. I've seen auras, but for me, I'm not a very visual psychic person, but I can feel the energy. And I bet all of you can feel the energy because we all have done it. How do I train myself to feel it more? It's one of the things we cover in our courses. But this is just the reflection of our energy. When we reach certain states of energy and certain frequencies, certain states of vibration, in this case, we can reach a vibrational state where all of our non-physical and energetic body can vibrate. That's the point where you normally are able to more easily leave your physical body. And this happens spontaneously, but you can also generate that feeling. And it's one of the techniques, in fact, to leave your body. It is not a prerequisite, and that's why I'm putting it here, because in many schools of thought, I've heard about these vibrations that people feel. Many say it's a prerequisite to have an OBE, and it isn't. You can have out-of-body experiences without having the vibrational state. And in fact, that's the most common way. Very rarely do you get a vibrational state before you have an OBE, but it is a way to have them more easily. And we do teach techniques on how to reach that vibrational state. But what happens and why, and for me, this is the interesting bit that I was saying earlier of, so what do I do with an OBE? Just because I'm here in my office having a glass of water, if I lie down, I can go to my living room and sit in the couch just out of the body. What do I do with that? There's more to it than that. First, it gives you a very thorough, intimate knowledge of you not dying when your physical body dies. You continue to exist with the exact same memories, personality, good and bad traits you have now. You're not suddenly illuminated and saint because you moved on. If for example, my grandparents passed away, I've met with them a few times after they've left their physical body forever, in a way. They're the same people they were before. They just have, of course, a wider view of the world. They now understand where they are and what they can do. But it gives us that sense of tranquility that I will continue to exist regardless of what physical body I have or not have. And of course, because I can see that what I do has an impact energetically on other people, physically and also non-physically, all the actions that I take now, all the things that I might not pay attention to because I think, it's going to affect someone in 50 years, it's not going to affect me. Well, it will affect someone. It might even affect you in 50 years, even if you're out of the body. Your actions and your thoughts matter, and you can come face to face with them. The energy that I showed you actually connects not just you to your physical body, but it's all around us. It connects us on this call when we are talking, obviously to a greater or lesser degree, but we're still connected. You can still feel when you're talking to someone who's trying to manipulate you or lie to you or to push something onto you. You can sometimes feel that, or sometimes you don't know what it is, but you feel, I'm not happy around this person. I'd rather be around that other person. That is the energy perception that we all get. How to develop that even further, and of course, out of the body, which is even more direct. And we can evolve more quickly. We can start to see things in a wider and multidimensional way. And of course, have more peace. There's a bit of a typo in there, to a higher real inner peace sensation, because you're at peace with yourself and you still have the same problems. I still have to pay rent. You still have to do things. You have to eat. You have to do physical stuff here, but you start to see things differently and you start to explore things differently. So I'll stop here for a second, but that's really why OBEs are important. It's more about how you can get to know yourself, experience reality from a much broader way, and really see things beyond what we see right now, right here, and how to get the right sort of, not the right effect, but a really impactful effect on your own life from that experience. It's like the first time you get on a plane and you go from one continent to another and you explore new countries. You enrich in your experience, you feel better, you learn new languages. It's exactly the same with an OBE. You will learn new languages in a way. You'll be able to speak telepathically, understand things energetically, see things that are literally out of this world. So how that impacts your life is just, well, obvious when you start to put it in this way, but not necessarily when you start. I have a friend who leaves his body, or used to, I haven't seen him in a few years, quite often. But all he managed to do was involuntarily float around his room and come back into his body. So there was the sort of sensation of, what can I do with this? How do I get out of here? How do I do more with this? Yeah, if I talk a bit about dreams here, because I think it's a good yes and no, in the sense that sometimes we only have a dream and that's it. I have dreamt that I'm having an out-of-body experience, but it was just a dream. And sometimes it is difficult to know if it's a dream or not. In fact, I have many entries in my OBE/lucid dream/regular dream diary of entries that I say, I have no idea if this was a dream or a very low lucidity OBE. And you have to be honest with yourself about the experience you had as you remember it. Try not to embellish it just to sound like you had 100 OBEs. So when I say that you have all had OBEs, it's because you have had out-of-body experiences. You may not remember them, maybe because you were very low in lucidity, almost asleep or in a comatose state out of the body. You can see that quite often. You see people floating above their bodies, but they're asleep. So your physical body is asleep. The non-physical body is just floating around, even outside of your house somewhere, asleep as well. And then it comes back in. So very likely that that person is not going to remember anything. They were unconscious out of the body. But sometimes you have an out-of-body experience where you interacted with someone, but because of many processes that are involved in memory, because that experience didn't happen in the physical brain, so you have to download that experience to your physical brain through energy. It's not a perfect, at least for most of us, it's not a perfect process. I don't remember every OBE that I had in its entirety. And we can forget them. But there's ways to train first yourself to remember dreams, to start with that. Many people don't remember their dreams. You can try to remember your dreams. Lucid dreams, which are dreams where you're a bit aware of that you're dreaming, but it's not yet an out-of-body experience, although in a technical way, yes, it is. You're experiencing something and you're not in your physical body. And when you're really in an out-of-body experience, exploring any reality, and of course, there's many techniques to try to figure it out, but it's mostly about practice and to learn how it can feel so that you don't confuse the various states. And for many years, it can be confusing, especially if you're starting. But you have certainly left your physical body. In fact, we did it when we were born. We were not in this physical body, and then we came into this physical body. And when we die, we will go back out. So at least those two we will all have, but there's certainly many more that we have every night. Feeling we all have felt, I felt it myself, even though I've done this for a while. Sometimes I still get not scared per se, but a bit anxious, like, oh my God, what if this happens? And it's just the fear of the unknown. That's why the more you learn about these things and you know what could happen, what couldn't happen. You know, it's just when you're a kid and you go to school for the first time on your own, you know there's a bus, you know how to cross the road, but you still get anxious doing it the first time because you're not there with your mom or with whoever was taking you, your big brother. It's exactly the same thing. And what you describe sounds more like an OBE than just a lucid dream. You're starting to feel and maybe see that you're floating in your room or outside of your room. It could be a lucid dream, but that's where you start to question yourself during that dream. Is this really an OBE? Can I see my physical body? Can I see my house? Can you prove to yourself that maybe, I don't know, you went down the street and you saw cars parked nearby and noted their license plates to then check if they were there? There's little things you can try. But the fear is about learning and really learning how to deal with situations that you might be afraid of. What if I run into someone? What if there's someone in my room right now with me? Who is that person? What are they doing here? You start thinking about this and then your brain goes into overheat mode with all the movies we've watched about horror movies. And then you scare yourself for no reason because it's very, very safe. You just have to be prepared and know how to deal with that. You know, energetic techniques and awareness and all of these things to help you with that. But that's good that you're having that. Reframe your fear in the sense that you're not dissolving. Dissolving means you're dissolving and disappearing. You're still you. You're just existing in a different plane. That's it. You're not dissolving into anything. Because dissolving is like when you grab something dissolved in water and it disappeared, is no longer there. That will just add to your fear that you think you're dissolving. You're actually just experiencing reality from a different perspective. You're in a different body, in a different dimension, even though you're in this physical one. You're slightly out there and you can go further with that. Oh, I see. So yes and yes, but let me qualify. So meeting other people, absolutely, especially if you have someone that sleeps with you, a partner or family member, somebody that wants to do this with you, a friend, maybe from this group that is practicing with you. Great if you can try to meet outside. It's not that common because usually OBEs, for the wrong reasons or the right reasons, they are very short for most of us in terms of what we can experience. I'm talking about minutes, very rarely longer than 20, 30 minutes, because we normally then come back to our physical bodies. But if you do happen to live at the same time, great if you can do that. You can help each other as well. So you can have, for example, a pact or an agreement that you're going to practice a technique and you're going to try to leave your bodies at the same time. Whoever leaves first goes and helps the other one. The only problem with that is that if you're an inexperienced OBE explorer, it's very rare you'll have the lucidity and awareness to remember even that that's what you were supposed to do. You'll probably go like the dog from Up, the movie, squirrel, and then you go and chase something else and you forgot what you were trying to do. So yes, we have, and I've done that with my partner a couple of times, so you can experience that, but it's very rare, and it's usually with people you're very much energetically connected to. For example, it would be extremely difficult, if not impossible, because it isn't, but it would be very hard for me to say to all of you, okay, all of us tonight, let's practice this technique, and I'm going to go to your houses and do that. No energetic connection. I have no clue where you live. I won't even remember most of you. And that's assuming I can leave my body at will tonight, because, again, I don't know anybody that has a 100% success rate. And the people that I've met who have claimed to have that quickly realize it wasn't like that. It's more of a one every X times. So in the beginning, maybe you try it every night for a month and you don't get a single experience, maybe for a whole year. But then the more you do it, the more you start to see, every 3 or 4 times I try, I have some experience or something like this. So to do it together, it's difficult, it happens. But more interestingly than that is to meet someone in the astral that isn't someone that you know. And it's someone that maybe can teach you something, or that has been, looking after you somehow. Maybe somebody, like I said, my grandparents that I've met a couple of times and I haven't seen in like 2 or 3 years now, but for a few times after they died, I did. And that can be very interesting as well. But of course, there's the beauty of meeting someone physically that you can then come and corroborate the experience, which is great. But just to finish then, so we have a few types of OBEs or projections, disconnections, and you may experience this even when you're like having a nap in the middle of the afternoon. It's quite common to have a slight disconnection because you are, let's say, on the bus for 2 hours and you're against the window and it's vibrating. You relax. It's almost like you're hypnotized with the vibrations. You can have partial projections like in here, either an arm that disconnects and suddenly you feel your arm floating up here. You can even control it, but then it snaps back as soon as you realize that your physical arm is down there, and it snaps back to the body. Same thing when you can just get up from a chair thinking you're physically getting up, but then you turn around and your physical body is there. You actually disconnected. Partial projections like these ones, also very common. So you can start to lift a leg. And in fact, that's one of the techniques, to try to disconnect a leg, then the other leg, then the arms, to try to leave your body fully. Or having a projection where you leave, here in the illustration, it shows you with like a bit more energy. You feel heavier, maybe difficult to fly. You may have less lucidity when you're in that condition. It's like a fogginess. But there's ways in which you can improve that by, discharging energy, doing certain techniques to increase the frequency of that energy, to kind of like clean your energy body a little bit. And for anybody from these groups, and Wendy, you can share this as well with whoever hasn't even seen this, but it's part of your network. We just put a 30% discount for the courses on our website for anybody that writes here, Zamit-30. Of course, if we have other offers at the same time, it won't be cumulative with those. But if you're interested in the courses, this particular one is the Consciousness Development Program, which is not just about OBEs, but using OBEs and the energy and past lives and life purpose to learn more. But if you are interested in that, I would say probably wait a couple of weeks, because at the end of November, we'll most likely have a Black Friday event. So if you're interested in our courses, wait a couple of weeks to get there. And we also like to ensure that anybody who wants to do these, regardless of income or background, can do them. So feel free to just email us if you have specific needs, because we do have kind of either bigger discounts or scholarships for people who are in a really, really struggling situation. You know, the idea is to teach as many people as we can, and that everybody hopefully can afford them. But yeah, here we are. This is the end of the talk on OBEs, but more interestingly, questions you have or things that you want to explore further, very happy to continue answering them.